Hi students, today's lecture is going to cover Chapter 16, Note Slides 1 through 7. We're going to talk about some basic characteristics of mammals. Now on your first slide, you'll notice we have just a general listing of 8 characteristics that are common to all or most mammals. And you'll notice that a lot of things we talk about are going to say most and not all. Because as we've discussed in class before, we have to put the animal in the category that it best fits into. Okay, so if we look at the next slide, we're going to start breaking down each of these characteristics one at a time and go into a little more detail about them. First of all mammals are going to have a skeletal system, an internal skeleton. Whether you're a human or a dog or a horse, we're all going to have an internal skeleton system, just like we studied in human anatomy and physiology. Now, a great evidence of our common great intelligent designer is the way these skeletons are structured. And if we look in the picture on page 321 in our book, you'll see some comparisons there. There's a whale, a human, a rat, a couple other things. And although there are a few basic differences, the general design of the skeleton is the same. That's because it's an efficient, working, wonderful design created by a common designer, an intelligent designer. Now let's look at the vertebrae of the mammal. Not only do they have an internal skeleton, but they all have 7 neck vertebrae. So if you feel in the back of your head, put your head, look down, feel in the back of your neck, you can feel your bumpy neck vertebrae. All mammals are going to have that. And there's 7 no matter how big or how small the mammal is. The size of the individual vertebrae will be different, but the number will not. So whether you're a giraffe with a big long neck, there's still going to be 7 vertebrae in the neck. Or if you're a little bitty chihuahua, you're still going to have just 7 vertebrae in the neck. They'll just be much smaller in size. Next things all mammals have in common are limbs. Now most, and we say most, are going to have 2 pair of limbs or appendages. That generally means 2 arms or 2 legs if you're a human, or 4 legs if you're a dog, a cat, a cow. There are a few differences though. We say most because most do have 4 appendages. Like our monkey here. See, he can even hold his banana. See that? Let me put him over here so you can see him. There he is. Okay, but other mammals only have 1 pair of appendages, like this seal. You're getting where you can see him. See, here's his little seal flippers, but he just has 1 flipper in the back, and the same goes for dolphins and whales. So those are going to be the exceptions to that rule. Now if we look on the next slide, we're going to, number 3, talk about mammals and hair. All mammals have hair to some extent or another, or at one point in their life or another. Hair serves a couple purposes. It provides warmth, and it also provides a coat shape. If you've ever seen those, what are they called, hairless chihuahuas, they look really strange, don't they? When an animal has hair, it just gives the overall body shape a much better detail. Same goes if you've seen some of the humans that don't have hair on their heads and they might have a really pointed or flattened head shape. Adding hair makes the shape of the head look a lot better. Okay, some specialized functions of hairs are things like whiskers. They can actually sense things in the environment. They have little sensors on the whiskers, like on a cat, to detect pressures, or not really pain, but they can just detect whether they're touching something or not. hair can also, for some animals, provide protection from the environment. Some animals, their coat, like a deer, will blend in with its environment, so it camouflages the animal, helps it to escape from predators better. Okay, next let's look at how mammals nourish their young. Mammals produce milk, and that's how they nourish their young. All mammals have mammary glands. Okay, these are the physiological glands that produce the milk and keep the young animals nourished until they can go out and find food on their own. One really interesting thing about milk production is the very first milk, and it's not really milk, it's a very rich nutrient that comes into the mammary gland as a precursor to milk, is called colostrum. And it works in humans just like in other mammals. So before the milk actually is coming in at full force, this colostrum, it's like a humongous shot of vitamins for the new baby. It's rich in antibodies and nutrients and vitamins, and it's a great introduction to that first new life into the world of having to actually take nutrients into its body by mouth and find its own nutrition. Now, in a mammal, also when the baby doesn't need milk anymore, it stops nursing, the milk stops being produced. So it's a real awesome design that God has created. It's a real supply and demand. The more a baby nurses, the more milk the mammary glands will produce. And when the baby doesn't nurse anymore, the mammary glands will stop producing. Okay, number 5, another feature of mammals is they are all warm-blooded. Now, what does this mean? It means that they control their body temperature by internal mechanisms. So, for example, although we put on coats when we're cold or we put less clothing on when we're hot, our internal body temperature always stays at approximately 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. If it deviates from that in just any way, too low or too high, we start getting sick. Our body processes don't function as efficiently. And if the body temperature deviates too far from that, that can be a life-threatening situation. Being warm-blooded, another term for that is called homeothermic. It means the mammal has the ability to maintain its body temperature regardless of the external environment. And mammals use food to produce this heat. This process of turning food into heat and energy is called cellular respiration. Now, we'll talk more about this when we study cells, but cellular respiration is basically the reverse of photosynthesis. The mammal takes glucose from the food it eats and oxygen from the air and turns that into smaller food molecules that can be used throughout the body and the waste product of CO2. So it's just the opposite of photosynthesis. Now, cold-blooded animals have to control their body temperature by the external environment. That's why you'll see things like, I like to go visit South Carolina a lot and see my friend down there. We'll see the alligators out sunning themselves to get warm. Or when it's too hot, they go into the water to cool off. That's the only way they can control their body temperature. The last thing we're going to talk about on this video are what do mammals do in the winter? Well, some mammals have the ability to hibernate, and you've been learning that since you were a little kid. But not all animals we've talked about actually hibernate. There's another term for winter sleep, and it's called winter lethargy. And the difference between hibernation and winter lethargy is the body temperature of the animal. True hibernation means that the animal's body temperature is almost to freezing. It's literally barely alive. The heart's barely beating. It might beat very, very slowly, and the animal will take a breath just maybe once every 5 minutes. If you found it out in the woods and an animal is truly hibernating, you could punt kick it across the field and it probably wouldn't wake up. Although if you do that, it might never wake up. It might cause some internal injuries. However, things like squirrels, woodchucks, these go into a true hibernation. Now, especially here in the Smokies, one of our favorite animals to talk about is the bear. And the bear hibernating in the winter. However, it's really a winter lethargy that the bear goes into. This means the body temperature still remains high, and if the animal is really disturbed, the animal could come out of the sleep. So don't go hiking in the winter and start bothering bears to test out this theory. You may not end up with good results. So the bear, sorry, all I could find was a polar bear on short notice, but the bear is a winter lethargy. Okay, this is going to end our lecture on note slides 1 through 7. Till next time, this is Mrs. Tongray signing off.